Hey, welcome ladies and gentlemen. Charles E. Smith Jr. here. Welcome to this edition of Football Talk. Hard to believe we're already up to week 12. It just seems flying by. Thanksgiving is coming up. Holiday season is upon us. So let's go ahead and get right into it. This is an Inside Sports production. Of course, I cannot do this alone. I need to get one of the best in the business, who I did recruit when the season started. None other than Chris Lardy of FootballNation.com. You can read his columns there every week, and a lot of you also follow him on Twitter at Chris L. Sports. So without further ado, let's get this party started. Let's get it rolling. Mr. Lardy, what's happening?
Charles, as always, the introductions get better and better each week. Well, thanks. Like you, looking forward to Turkey Day and actually having some decent football to watch on a Thursday for a change, unlike these NFL Network Thursday night matchups we've had to endure for the first 11 weeks.
Yeah, well, you know, they're going to make up for that by giving you Carolina and Philadelphia on this coming Monday night, but we'll dwell on the positive for now.
Well, you know, John Gruden's happy because, you know, he might be auditioning for one of those two jobs.
Okay, well, you know, before we get into it, let's go ahead and talk about your latest columns there on FootballNation.com. Your column you write every week. What's happening? I love reading it, and everybody, if you haven't been there yet, you will love it. Good, quick read, just fantastic stuff. Talk to us.
Thanks, Charles. My next one, which will be posted tomorrow on the website, be sure to check it out, is the top 10 things for NFL fans to be thankful for. And this is not going to be mushy and sentimental for those of you loyal readers out there, and I appreciate you. I take more of a sarcastic / humorous look at the NFL. So, for instance, one of the things I'm thankful for in the NFL are the New York Jets, just for the sheer comedic value they provide me on lately a weekly basis. Got a few other gems in there talking about some of the announcers we have to deal with in the NFL, a few other things, but I'll save that for the column. But one of the things I do mention in there is that we actually have some decent matchups to watch on Thursday for a change, and I figure, you know, we've got 3 games, so that means 2 of them will probably be duds. But I'll take one good game on a Thursday holiday.
There you go. And, you know, we get to watch them, and hopefully that tryptophan won't kick in and put you to sleep during the 3rd game there.
You must be a mind reader because I make a reference to the almighty tryptophan in my column. I won't divulge how, but it's in there. And I checked the spelling today, too.
All right, perfect. So as we get going here with football talk, let's talk about some of the best of Week 11 before we get into the upcoming week here. And, you know, one of these great performances, albeit it was against the Jacksonville Jaguars, because every now and then they come up with a gem. But Matt Schaub, how about 527 passing yards against Jacksonville? That's the 2nd most all-time, I believe. Warren Moon did it in 1990. Norm Van Brocklin still has a record from back there in 51 or so. He threw for, I think, 554 yards. But a great game for Schaub against the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, and they really need it. I know Jacksonville's not the most formidable opponent, but he and the immortal Andre Johnson, who kind of get the Chris Johnson treatment this year for a wide receiver. Everyone had written him off and said his career was all but done. I mean, he really woke up with a vengeance this week. So you know, Schaub can throw the ball, and if they get some home playoff games down there in the Dome in Houston, watch out, because we know they can pound the ball down your throat with Arian Foster and Ben Tate behind them. But now it looks like Schaub's got the fastball going too, so maybe that team's heating up on offense.
Yep, we'll see. Okay, so, and, you know, moved to 9-1. And let's go from one Matt to another Matt. And we talked about him, you know, in the past couple of weeks. Is something going on there with Matty Ice? I mean, 5 interceptions against the Cardinals. They did win the game, which is a good thing. But, man, we talk about getting home field advantage, but that can be a disadvantage at some point. When you look at the way that they've played up and down this season, you can imagine that even though the playoffs are, 6 weeks away or so, but the pressure that's going to be on that Falcons team when they take the field for that first home playoff game is going to be tremendous.
Definitely. And, you know, the Cardinals are down to their 3rd-string quarterback, a rookie. So, I mean, they really got by. They really kind of dodged a bullet there. This week they're going to face the resurgent Buccaneers. That's going to be no easy task. They're going to have the Giants coming up down in Atlanta in a couple of weeks, which should be a good game rematch of the playoff game last year. And they're going to face the Saints again, the lone team that beat them. So Matty Ice and crew better shake off these cobwebs because the schedule's not going to get much easier. And who knows? Like you said, they keep slipping up. They might not have home field if they keep it up at this rate.
Yep, and you know what? We got to give the old warrior, Peyton Manning, through his 421st TD pass in the win on Sunday, passes Dan Marino for second place all time. He's still behind Brett Favre. He may eventually catch Favre, but Peyton Manning keeps on getting it done year after year, and looks like he's really settled in there in Denver.
Yeah, and everyone who thought he had lost something on his arm or maybe was a little rusty, I think those naysayers have gone by the wayside. He looks like he hasn't missed a beat. He's out there, old self, acting like an offensive coordinator on the field, leading the troops. Whenever his team needs a drive or they need to hurry up offense, it looks like the Peyton Manning circa 1998, just in a different jersey. So very impressive. It's a nice story. I think he and Adrian Peterson are in a photo finish right now for Comeback Player of the Year in the NFL.
There you go. All right. Now, one other quarterback, and this is going to this may turn into something. Is there a QB controversy brewing in San Francisco? Because Colin Kaepernick comes in, they torch the Bears on Monday night, win the game, and then Harbaugh, they asked him in the press conference afterwards, and he was very kind of non-committal about the whole thing. He said, when you have a quarterback that's hot, you tend to want to ride that hot hand. And he says that goes on to say both of them have played well lately, so we'll see, is all he would say. We'll see. What do you see?
Yeah.
What do you see,
Harbaugh
Matt?
definitely didn't diffuse the situation. I heard the post-game comments. I mean, you had to be impressed with the way Kaepernick played. Going into our pick segment last week, I figured if it was going to be he versus Jason Campbell, he had a lot more upside, and I had a lot more confidence in him. But the one thing with Kaepernick, beside his legs, he can throw the ball. He's got a good arm. And,
yeah.
I think that's something the 49ers have been lacking with Alex Smith. So, it's not like he beat up on the Rams or something. He beat up on a formidable defense, the Bears, who came into this game, some people feel were one of the class of the NFC, and really an impressive performance. And, watching the game, you think, maybe there's a controversy. But what Harbaugh said after the game, I think the media has really taken that and run with it. So it's going to be interesting what happens in the Bay Area now.
And, according to some, when I hear the rumblings, it's like it shouldn't even be a controversy. When you look at what Kaepernick was able to do to a defense like the Bears, and really being on just having 1 week of practice, looking at the skill set he has, it's kind of a no-brainer that Kaepernick should really be the starter over Alex Smith. But one other observation I made about Kaepernick, I was talking with some of my homeboys about it. He reminds me, if I got to go a little bit old school, I'm thinking Steve McNair. He kind of reminds me of when I was watching him play. What do you think?
Yeah, he's got a nice arm like McNair had, but he can use his feet. However, he's not solely relying on it like a Tebow. He's not a Tebow. I know a lot of people like to compare him to that. He had, I think, 59 rushing touchdowns in college at Nevada, just behind Tebow's numbers, I believe. But no, this guy's got a gun. We've even seen it earlier in the year. They'd bring him in for the wildcat in spots, and they'd bring him in to kind of throw the ball deep downfield. So, I think the good thing about him is Harbaugh's been able to groom him, bring him along slowly, and who knows, this might be his time now.
And, this brings up another thing. When you talk about he torched a pretty good Bears team, and that begs the question, how good are the Chicago Bears? They've only lost 3 games, but the 3 games they've lost are to the 3 playoff teams, and they lost, outscored 68-23 by the Packers, the Texans, and Niners. All games that they lost, they really, the Texans game was close. It was in that sloppy field there in Chicago. But when it comes down to the Bears, they got the record, but how good are the Chicago Bears really? Even with Cutler healthy, is this a good team or what?
I agree with you. I was talking about it with a coworker today, and as Cutler goes, so do the Bears. However, one thing that we realized last night, no matter who's there behind center, that offensive line is porous. Jason Campbell got sacked a bunch of times last night. You know, if Matt Forte is not healthy, they really don't have much of a running game. Even with Cutler, you know, you bring up a great point. Who have they beaten this year? And then some of the victories they did have, they struggled and had to rally at the end to beat the lowly Carolina Panthers. So I know if they get a home game at Soldier Field in January, that could present a problem. But they're gonna have to beat the Packers, and you know, I don't think Aaron Rodgers and crew are going to be intimidated going in there when they face them again later this season. They better beat them, or otherwise they're going to be on the outside looking in for that division in terms of tiebreaker.
Right, and the other thing is when you look at the, it seems like, and this was something we addressed when, you know, prior to the Texans game, and that was when you play good teams are going to do the things they're supposed to. They're going to take care of the football. Not going to give you those turnovers and those things that they make a living on. And it seems like when you break it down, it's like this: either the defense gets, you know, 4 or 5 turnovers a game, or the Bears lose. That's what it seems like here.
Yeah, and you can't be counting on your D to score like that. I know earlier this year, the Monday night game against Romo, they got a bunch of gifts and took back some pick sixes. But you can't be counting on that. You really can't. And I think the 49ers learned that last year against the Giants. Ultimately, it turned into a tremendous defensive battle, but you got to make plays if you're going to win the game. You got to at least be able to get your kicker in field goal position to win some of these games, and we're not even seeing that with a team like the Bears. So I think things will get better once Cutler comes back. But like you said, the level of competition, they're not going to make the mistakes. They're not going to give them the gifts. For instance, Aaron Rodgers is not, knock on wood, going to be throwing the ball like Cam Newton was to Charles Tillman.
Right, exactly. So, you know what, let's go ahead and move on to, you know, another team that hasn't gotten, I don't think they've gotten really the credit that they deserve, and that is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Can anyone stop the muscle hamster, as they call him? That's Douglas Martin. 597 rushing yards in the last 4 games. Tampa has won all 4 games. Now, Tampa started out 2-4. Now they're 6-4. While everybody is all over Drew Brees and the Saints. Hey, it's time to show a little bit of love for these Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I agree. And as Martin has just had this outstanding rookie season, we've seen the reemergence of Josh Freeman. He's really come to play, especially the last few weeks. Had some tremendous games, rallying the troops late against Carolina to tie it and get a 2-point conversion, and then hitting Dallas Clark for the win. And a big part of that is someone the San Diego Chargers let go. Hate to harp on this, Charger fans, but Vincent Jackson, another guy whose career has really seen a complete turnaround down in Tampa Bay, and that's also helped Mike Williams on the other side of the line of scrimmage there. He's benefited from it. You can't key on any one guy now. You key on the run, Freeman's going to beat you through the air. And you key on Vincent Jackson, Mike Williams is liable to beat you, or Dallas Clark now, who's kind of had an awakening. So on all sides of the offensive side of the ball, they're really well-rounded. And then, you know, Greg Schiano's a defensive coach, and he seemed to turn things around with that team there. They got a lot of young talent. They've got the never-aging Rondé Barber, and you know, this could be a team that could sneak in and become a wild card that kind of has been flying below the radar.
Yeah, and I like the
matchup.
Right, I like the makeup of the team. So, you know, you look at it going forward, and is this just and the nucleus of the team is young, like you say. You know, Rondé Barber is the ageless one. But looking at the team, you know, their star running back, the quarterback, they're young at the positions they need to be young, so they're going to be set for the next several seasons. And I like the emergence, if you will, the evolution of Greg Schiano as a coach at this level. You remember, he came in, he was raw, and he was one of the ones who the replacement referees even said he was the hardest coach to work with. And then we have the incident with him trying to run over Eli Manning at the end of the game. But I think he learned from that. You know, he settled down, the team settled down, so the intensity is there. And now we're getting, you know, he's even becoming a little bit more refined as he just, you know, gets settled in here.
Yeah, and I noticed that on Sunday when the Panthers took a knee to play for overtime, which is amusing in and of itself. He did not challenge it. His defense just kind of stood there like they're supposed to in the proverbial victory formation. So I think he learned. There was that piece that came out in Yahoo Sports early in the season about how most in the NFL couldn't stand him, and his reputation at Rutgers was he was a pain to work with if you were a scout or an executive. So, yeah, maybe he has kind of mellowed out a little. Because let's face it, this is a business and this is a network, and everyone knows each other. And at the end of the day, people are getting paid a lot of money to do it. But at the same time, this rah-rah stuff only goes so far.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we move on here, and some of the best games of the of the past week. Almost time to get into the pick segment. Do you have anything more to put a little bit of a capper on this last week before we get into the pick segment?
I want to thank the really kind of lowly teams of the NFL, the Browns, the Jaguars, the Panthers. You look at them; these teams all, I believe, at one point during their respective blew double-digit leads and left people like me and you to watch nice overtime finishes in the early games. But I mean, that's what separates them from the boys in the NFL. You got a lead, you better hold on to it, you better finish. And the Browns have been down that road earlier this season. They let the Eagles back into a game, which they eventually won. Panthers did against the Bears, like we mentioned earlier. This is why good teams are good and the bad are bad. Don't get me wrong, I like watching overtime games, but at the same time, I feel for those three teams, fan.
Yeah, and I watched that Browns game, and I was really pulling for them. But the Browns, they couldn't help turning back into the Cleveland Browns when it came right down to it, and they just blow that game against the Cowboys, which was in Cowboy Stadium, and God, they could have done that. You got to wonder what that would have done for their confidence and everything, but it was not to be.
I know, I felt the same way, and at one point I was flipping channels, and I announced to my wife that the Cowboys had suddenly tied the game and were going over. Could that happen? And I said, it's the Cleveland Browns.
And she just said, oh, never mind. Okay.
Yeah, she gets it. And, even just people who remotely follow the NFL know about the poor Cleveland Browns.
There you go. So, you know what? Here we are on Football Talk, which is an Inside Sports production. And let's go ahead and get into the picks of the week. We're going to look at a couple of Turkey Day games and then get into the weekend games here. But before we go on, we got to take a look at the standings here. And we both rebounded from a tough week the week before. I'm 43-25 on the season. Chris is 43-25. I went 5-2 last week. Chris went 6-1. I went 5-2 because I thought that Andrew Luck was a little bit more ready for prime time than it turned out he really was. And boy, did he get a spanking at the hand of the New England Patriots.
Yeah, and Bill Belichick, on all sides of the ball, the Patriots really were humming on Sunday. But, in his infinite wisdom again of trying to tack on points late in the game, left the Almighty in on an extra point, and he broke his forearm. So at what cost, I'm not so sure. But, yeah, regardless, the Patriots really came ready to play on Sunday. And Andrew Luck will learn. It'll be a learning experience for him.
Okay, there we go. So let's go ahead and get into it. Here are the 7 games we're going to pick, the Magnificent 7. Start off with a couple of Turkey Day games, some interconference play. The Texans at 9-1. Now, mind you, they just had a kind of a tough game against Jacksonville here. Schaub throws for 527 yards. They still needed overtime to win the game. The Texans against the Lions. The Lions at 4-6. Going to be on life support here. If they lose this game, you can go ahead and pull the plug. But it's in Detroit, and Turkey Day is a tradition in Detroit. Maybe that'll give them some extra motivation. What do you think?
Normally I would think so, but with the way the Texans threw the ball, the way we all know they can run the ball, I'm going with Houston. Even though it's a road game, it'll be in a dome. And I think Kubiak and company will let the troops know that they win this game, they're going to have a nice long layoff until their next game. And I just, ultimately, I want to pick the Lions. I think their offense is playing better, but that defense is just staring you in the face, and Matt Schaub and Arian Foster must just be salivating. So I'm going with the Texans.
All right, well, here's what I'm going to do. A lot of people picked there were some of the experts who picked the Lions to win last week. They said it was one of their games where they're going to finally, come together as a team, win that game. They didn't, of course. They lose again. I got to go with, I'm going to go ahead with the Lions. The Turkey Day Lions are going to be my pick. A bit of an upset there. In fact, some would call it a huge upset. I'm going to go with the Lions to go ahead and take this game, because if they don't, this is the game. This is it right here for the Lions to define the season and also going forward. I mean, you're going to have jobs on the line. They're going to have people possibly getting traded. The team has to win this game. They got to come together on Turkey Day. I'm taking the Lions.
A gutsy call. I hand it to you.
Yeah. Okay. And then we got some divisional stuff. Traditional. The Redskins at the Cowboys. Redskins at 4-6. Cowboys at 5-5. Ugh. Go ahead, man. Talk to me about this one.
I'm going to put my personal biases aside and the fact that I think the Redskins had a nice win coming off a break, but the Cowboys are at home. They always play well on Thanksgiving. They seem to be on a bit of a roll, and I heard a stat where by the time the Giants take the field against the Packers, the Cowboys could really be breathing right down their neck. So I think the Cowboys know they can put a lot of pressure on the Giants. They always know playing every Thanksgiving they get that nice long layoff, and I think they pull off a victory. It might be a little closer than we expect. You never know what Mr. Romo, he giveth and he taketh away, as we saw on Sunday. But I'm going Dallas.
Okay, well, you know what? I like the way that this is starting out, because I like the way that RG3 and his boys got right this past weekend. I'm going to go with the Redskins. The Cowboys just almost blew that game to the Cleveland Browns. I don't think that, and I see where you're going with that as far as, yeah, they need this game and they could really get on the Giants behind by winning this game. But you know what? They should have gone and blown out Cleveland last weekend, but they didn't do that either. So I'm going with the Redskins here. I got the Skins on Turkey Day.
My heart hopes you're right. My head thinks you'll be wrong.
Okay. So let's go to the next one, Vikings and Bears. Vikings at 6-4, the Bears at 7-3. And remember, the Bears at this point, they've really not beaten any potential playoff teams yet. So, Adrian Peterson against Matt Forte in Chicago.
You know, we were doing our little pre-production meeting this evening. I asked you if the Bears had come out and said who would start this week, and figuring that would determine my pick. But regardless, I'm going to go out on a limb. Even if Cutler starts, I think the Vikings have been playing some nice football. As we talked about a few weeks ago, Adrian Peterson's been a monster. The maturation of Christian Ponder. I'm going to go with the Vikings in the upset. I think there's another team fighting for a playoff berth and a young squad coming together. I'll go with the purple pick.
Okay, well, you know what? I'm going to have to agree with you there. And I like the Vikings because, hey, you know what? They're playing better football than the Bears. And I still am not sold on the Bears. And like you said about Cutler, and too, we look at Cutler with the concussions and things, and then we talk about the offensive line, and we got to look at, are the Vikings going to give the Bears those 4 turnovers they need to win games? And I got to think the answer is going to be no. So I got to go with the Vikings as well. And we'll go ahead and agree on that game.
I like it.
Okay, so next game, here you go. The Falcons at 9-1, but have been looking shaky of late. Remember, Matt Ryan with the 5 picks this past weekend against the Arizona Cardinals. At the Bucks, Bucks have won 4 straight games. Bucks at 6-4. The Cardinals 9-1. Oh, this is going to be a good game too, in Tampa Bay. Talk to me.
Yeah, it definitely is, and I'm going with the Buccaneers, as I mentioned earlier. I think they're on a roll. They're really playing some good football. Schiano's got the team motivated, and psychologically they believe they can win. And combined with the fact that I think the Falcons are kind of sputtering here. They've hit a little bump on this proverbial highway to the Super Bowl. And I just think they're more of a team suited for that turf dome environment. Well, let's see how they do on the grass. And I think the Buccaneers pull this one out in an upset.
All right. Well, you know what? I gotta go ahead and agree with you again. No one's shown they can stop the muscle hamster of late. And the Falcons are not known for their defense. And then you put that together with Vincent Jackson. I think they can match them point for point. And I think there's a lot more nasty in the defense of the Buccaneers than there is in the defense of the Falcons. Excuse me. And also, Julio Jones is a little bit hobbled of late as well. And is Michael Turner really the Michael Turner that we're used to seeing? That remains to be seen as well. I think this is the perfect storm here. And I got the Bucs, and I got them winning. I'm going to take the Bucs. Now I'll go out on a limb and say the Bucs are going to win this game by 10 points. I'll say that too.
You're really definitely going out on limbs this week between the Lions and your 10 points. This will be interesting to see how it pans out. You're really sticking your neck out, Charles.
All right, let's go to the next one. The Baltimore Ravens at 8-2. Who will be playing with Ed Reed, from what I understand, at San Diego to play the Chargers. Chargers 4-6. Chargers season all but gone. Do they circle the wagon this week?
No, Ed Reed or not, I think the Ravens win. Normally, I would say Chargers home game. They rally the troops, but this is just a team in a tailspin psychologically. Have they quit on Norv Turner? I'm not sure. Phillip Rivers is still a turnover machine. Mm-hmm. Their best offensive weapon was signed off the street. Didn't even start with the team this season. Denario Alexander. No running game to speak of. And the Ravens, their defense seems to be revitalized after that big win on Sunday night, which I might add, I picked the score correctly but got the winning team wrong, so I got to give myself some credit, pat myself on the back while I can. I think Flacco, probably, even if he does have to throw the ball out, you can throw on the Chargers as we saw this past Sunday. If not, I think Ray Rice will run all over them. May not be the prettiest game, but Baltimore wins.
Yeah, and, not a whole lot of analysis needed. I think the Chargers, they're basically done. It's just waiting for the end of the season to see who gets their walking papers and who doesn't, see who gets their locker cleaned out, see who goes. But the season is finished for the Chargers. They're not going anywhere, and Rivers, I think his days may be numbered there in San Diego as well. But it's going to be an interesting – I'm going ahead and already a week with only 10 games played, I'm going to say the Chargers are already looking forward to the offseason to see what's going to happen, because there's going to be some turmoil in San Diego for sure.
Yeah, definite house cleaning looms.
All right, so I got the Ravens as well in case I didn't make that clear for everybody. But next game, 49ers at 7-2-1 because of that tie against the Rams. At New Orleans to play the Saints. The Saints, everybody's darling. Everybody's saying, oh, they're going to make the playoffs. They're going to make a run. Yada, yada, yada. Saints at 5-5. The Niners coming in, marching in to the Superdome. How do you see this one?
I'm going 49ers, and I know normally 49ers sometimes have trouble on the road. Look at earlier this year against the Vikings, losing a game that a lot of people thought they shouldn't have. Back in the good old days when they were in the same division as the Saints, sometimes they'd go down there into New Orleans and struggle. But I just think Harbaugh will have his team ready. He knows the Saints are going to want revenge after that epic playoff game last year. And if Mr. Kaepernick does start, I really like the 49ers at the end of the day. I think that defense can shut down Breeze when they need to, as we saw last year. And with an actual quarterback, the 49ers are a lot more dangerous than they appeared to be a week or two ago.
Yeah, I'd say, I'm going to go with, I'm going with the 49ers also. Only thing is, if Kaepernick were to sputter, if Alex Smith does get a chance to go back in, what's going to be his psyche? Because we know he's a little bit fragile. He got all butt hurt when he found out they were talking to Peyton Manning in the offseason and almost went Jay Cutler on him. But I think that we will I think Kaepernick's going to do just fine. And the Saints present a nice porous defense to throw into as well, not to mention Frank Gore pounding the ball. I like the Niners to go ahead and win this game.
I see a trend. We're agreeing again, Charles.
We are, yeah. We started off kind of shaky, and then we got right on the Vikings game, and we've been okay ever since. But let's see how we do on this last one. The Packers at 7-3, winners of 5 straight, going in to play the Giants. Now the Giants, ironically, they knocked off the Falcons, the Packers, and the Niners in the playoffs to get to the Super Bowl last year and ultimately knock off the New England Patriots again. But they're going to play them this season. They already whooped up on the 49ers several weeks ago. Now they got the Packers coming in. Packers on a roll, but Packers still without a running game to speak of. How do you see this one?
It's another case of, do I pick with my head or my heart? And the head is going to win again. I'm going with the Packers. I think the offense, even with that limited running game, is starting to click. I don't like the way the Giants have been playing, even coming off a bye week. Ultimately, what does it for me, and kind of sitting on the fence thinking about this pick, is the game is going to be played in the month of November, and we all know when the Giants start 6-2 and/or the calendar turns over to November, this team starts their annual tailspin. So they're going to round out the month of November with one final loss before hopefully they turn it around in December. Packers.
Well, you can't argue with that, with tradition and, what they've shown in the past. But I'm going to tell you, I like the Giants. They haven't been right for a couple of games here, and they lost to Cincinnati. If nothing wakes you up, it's going to be losing to Cincinnati. Now, granted, the Bengals are better than they have been in a few previous years here, and they are kind of on an upswing. But still, you're the defending Super Bowl champs, and you lost to the Bengals. You had a bye week. I think the Giants are going to come out spitting fire. They're going to be ready for this game, and they're going to give the Packers all they can handle. And at the end of the day, we got the Giants winning this game by 3 points. I got the Giants in this one. We're going to have to disagree right here at the end.
That's one disagreement I'll be happy with.
All right, so you know what? We're just about out of time here. So, we wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. And Mr. Lardy, any final words for everyone out there?
Yeah, just like you said, happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your football. Don't forget, we've got a Thursday night game that will be on NBC, not the NFL Network. I don't work for either organization. I'm not getting paid to promote it, but just watch see how Mr. Tebow and his Jets teammates that dislike him so much do against the Patriots. That should be interesting. And as well, we're heading here into the home stretch and starting to get some interesting matchups. Really looking forward to it. This is why we love the NFL.
Yep, and that's why we do this show every week. So remember, you can read him on footballnation.com. You can follow him on Twitter at Chris L Sports. Follow myself on Twitter at The Inside Sports. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Football Talk. I'm Charles E. Smith Jr. for Chris Lardieri. We'd like to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving and thank everybody for watching, and we will see everyone next week. Have a nice Turkey Day.